Welcome to Session 13, Cultural Competency. The objectives for this session will be to recognize how cultural boundaries, norms of behaviors, styles of advocacy, diverse values and beliefs, and bias affect services and influences relationships and interactions. You will be able to examine and describe cultural backgrounds, social identities, and cultural heritages to increase self-awareness of assumptions, values, beliefs, and bias. You will be able to select and develop appropriate methods to advance your work with respect to the diverse in relationships and groups in community and institutions. What is culture? Culture is the total pattern of human behavior and its products embodied in thought, speech, action, and artifacts, and is dependent upon man's capacity for learning and transmitting knowledge to succeeding generations through the use of tools, language, and systems of abstract thought. There are 5 essential elements to cultural competency. It consists of having respect and valuing diversity, having the capacity for cultural self-assessment by reviewing one's own needs and learning the needs of others. It requires being conscious of the dynamics inherited when cultures interact with one another. Valuing diversity consists of embracing the differences and contributing to the value of their environment. It also requires valuing diversity means accepting and respecting differences between others. It also requires establishing relationships in the community by getting to know students' home life, environment, interests, and their language experiences. Having a self-assessment consists of identifying the differences among the people in your environment. It also consists of identifying the differences among the children in your classroom setting, and by helping to create an environment that is welcoming by representing items displayed from everyone's culture. Cultural diversity. Diversity is the term often used today when talking about all the qualities people have that make them different from another. By the time children reach the school-age years, they are aware of differences. They see variations in gender, race, culture, and physical and mental abilities. They observe the way other people react to differences and easily adopt similar attitudes. You are probably aware of what happens when differences are the basis for dislike. Racial problems, gang violence, and simple rejections from a social group are all examples. These situations hurt individuals as well as our society. Children need to grow up with positive attitudes towards differences. Differences should be discussed openly and honestly. A child care program that integrates children from many different economic levels and social and cultural backgrounds help children accept and enjoy diversity. An environment that's not only acknowledged, but also celebrates differences help children become compassionate, tolerant, and accepting. Cultural competency. What does it mean for educators? Let's see what cultural competency means for educators. For your discussion board this week, you will discuss what cultural competency means to the professionals you are about to watch, and what it means to you as an early childhood provider.
Educators, I think, have an ethical responsibility to deeply understand the young people with whom they work. I think that if you are teaching someone's child, in some way you need to know the family, you need to know something about the neighborhood in which the child resides. You need to understand the variety of both challenges and opportunities that are part of that child's life, because what it does is to give you a kind of repertoire of possibilities in terms of how you can connect with kids.
I think it's really important that educators are culturally competent because The diversity of our children now is greatly increased. In Hawaii, for example, there are no majorities. Everybody's a minority. Even within our own cultural groups, let's say ethnic Japanese, where they're 26%, depending upon the background that they come from, the generation that people immigrated, there is difference within each so-called category. So there is really no way for a teacher to assume that just knowing that most of the kids are going to be a particular ethnicity, there's going to be a certain way to teach.
So to me, cultural competence implies a certain grounding in the social relations of local communities, so that you not only get to know the community a little bit better firsthand, but that you give yourself plenty of opportunities to learn from others.
Cultural competence is creating a context that will honor students' culture, students' way of looking at the world, their value systems. And for teachers in a classroom, it's creating an environment that's safe, that will allow students to be who they are.
The first question everyone who wants to be culturally competent as an educator should know how to ask of themselves and also of the young people that they work with is, tell me what it is that you're expert in. And it's that sharing of expertise and learning that enables us to think of cultural competence as this ability to navigate, negotiate, and mediate all the rapid changes and the diversities in every sort.
I think it's a special competency that teachers need as part of what I want to call, the moral obligations entailed in teaching. And the moral dimension of that work is if I want to have impact in terms of my teaching, then I have to come to know the community, the families, where I would be working.
As our communities change and evolve, as our children become different in relation to the circumstances, how society changes, educators need to be culturally competent because it's morally right, it's ethically right, and it's a matter of justice.
The basis of teaching and learning is the social relation, so that being able to expand our ways of interacting and engaging others, I think, is central to a sound pedagogy in contemporary schools.
I think the student achievement gaps are accompanied by other kinds of gaps. There are gaps in teacher knowledge, performance. There are gaps in the relationship between schools and communities. So NEA has an opportunity to call attention to these ways in which education can do more and be more for our local communities and for the nation.
The gap has to do with the misunderstanding of different ways of looking at the world, of different explanations, of different ways of, conceiving content. And the more we inform and educate our teachers, our leaders, everyone across the board about what some of these distinctions are, and they get worked into the curricula and they get worked into the preparation and ongoing professional development of teachers, then we'll have the opportunity to ensure that the gaps will be closed.
One of the things we know is that the young people who come from some of the most under-resourced communities can respond when they're asked to step up to the line and show what their achievements are. You're very, very strong in drawing, you're very strong in visual development, you're very strong in reading the text and the illustrations in the science book, but your achievement gap, as we now define it in education, is coming when I ask you to write a paragraph, and you simply don't want to do that. So let's think about adding to your achievements and making those achievements that you already have spring forward and bloom in a different way.
Cultural competency. What does it mean for educators? Let's see what cultural competency means for educators. For your discussion board this week, you will discuss what cultural competency means to the professionals you are about to watch, and what it means to you as an early childhood provider. Organizational or institutionalized cultural competency requires that organizations have the capacity to value diversity, conduct self-assessments, manage the dynamics of differences, acquire the knowledge needed, and adapt to the diversity and cultural context of the individuals and the communities they serve. When working with a variety of cultural diverse children, we must reflect on understanding the diversity between and within cultures. We must be able to teach and learn about differences and how to respond to them effectively, and to document and translate in the family's common language in order to build stronger relationships and support for all learners. When working with a variety of cultural diverse children, we must reflect and understand the diversity between and within cultures. We must be able to teach and learn about differences and how to respond to them effectively in order to document and translate in the family's common language in order to build strong. Here are a few ways to implement cultural competency with your families. Highlight the presence of all families in the learning environment. Identify ways to communicate with families. Establish a language policy that embraces children's home language. Invite and welcome all family members. Encourage children to speak their home language. Invite family members to share information about their culture. Preschool classrooms should provide diverse music experiences. Introducing music from around the world can be accomplished in many ways. Music in different languages has been recorded by many children musicians. Classical and contemporary music from many countries is available in most public libraries and music stores. The families you work with also may be able to provide and share music from their own collections. Many simple multicultural musical instruments can be made from reusable, recycled materials. Helping children increase self-awareness. This consists of you supporting children with building self-awareness of their cultures by talking and sharing with families, students, friends, and colleagues. By providing children with book readings are a wonderful way to experience cultural diversity. Another way to support this area is to take professional development classes pertaining to cultural competency so that you may familiarize yourself with different cultures. When you receive a child with a background you are not familiar with, you can build your cultural awareness by researching values, beliefs, attitudes, and the behaviors of that culture. What is a cultural responsive environment? Valuing the diversity of others by being culturally responsive. This can take place by asking questions, talking with parents, community members, and colleagues, reading books, watching movies, and listening to music. When having conversations with children, no matter what the subject may be, build on the child's interests and life experiences. And always create a learning environment that builds on community. For this week's assignments, you will read in Essentials pages 273 through 302. You will also complete the discussion board questions and respond to another student's response. And you will complete this week's assessment.